Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Solid Blue Sister, and welcome to my show, My Turn to Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about Jim Crow. And it's something that has been around for, the name has been around for more than a century. And now we are in the 21st century, 2021, and we're in Jim Crow 2.0. We are still talking about race. We are still talking about racism. All of this, I mean, why are we still talking about it? And you're probably saying, well, you're talking about it. I am talking about it. Because it's just something in America that we just can't get rid of. We cannot get rid of the subject of race. Okay, so growing up, I am a baby boomer. And growing up, I had parents, especially my mother, who always made sure that my sister and I knew where we came from. And, you know, she would tell us the stories about Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, you know, and I was very much aware that I was Black. I knew that there was a difference between Black people and white people. Growing up, I went to a private school that was mostly white, always had white teachers. You know, I didn't have a African-American teacher until I got to college. And even then it was only one. You know, but I always knew that I was Black. And then you had these white people who always seemed to have it just a little bit easier. And you know what? I'm not even going to say a little bit, a lot of bit easier. You know, and then as you grow up, you get out of college, you know, or get out of high school, you get a job, whatever. You get out into the workforce. You're working at various places, you know, be it whether you're working at a fast food place or if you're working in an office or wherever. But your lesson in life, you know, really starts when, you know, as a Black person, you know, we already started learning our lessons in life early, you know, but now, you know, now we're in the workforce. And I work for a telecommunications company where I said, you know, before that working there, even though that company, you know, in terms of how they treated African Americans compared to how they treated, you know, white people and how they treated white men, as opposed to how they treated even white women, that was one of the best learning experiences that I had, because it opened my eyes and it made me really, really see what I was going to be dealing with. So let's talk about Jim Crow. As I said, Jim Crow has been around for more than a century. And let's talk about, exactly what is Jim Crow. Okay. Jim Crow, as some people may know, some people may not know, is not actually a person. Jim Crow is the name of the laws that segregate the blacks from the whites. These laws first came into society after the American Civil War. The name Jim Crow originally comes from a song performed by Thomas D. Rice and written in 1828. Now, let's look at the origin of the name. The name came a song made by Thomas Darthouse Rice in the 19th century, 1828. The person made a skit about his encounter with a Negro singing this song. In the performance, he portrayed an exaggerated, stereotypical Black person. We'll come back to the stereotypical part. Even putting black cork on his skin, that's what it should be, to look like a Black person. After the skit, the name became a collective name for African Americans. He portrayed an exaggerated, stereotypical Black person, which brings me back to stereotypes. Black folks have been stereotyped so much in this country, so much. Those stereotypes have hurt us in so many ways. It's hurt women because a lot of, especially white men think that Black women are overly sexed. Oh, they just love it. They just like it. I know you all like it like this. It's hurt our Black men. They're mandingos. They're these big Black bucks, they'll rob and kill you. Stay away from Black men. Keep your white women, our pure white women, away from Black men. Tell the Kardashians that. It's hurt our children. It's hurt us in education. Because a lot of people think, and I would say a lot of white America thinks, that Black people are stupid and we're dumb. And a lot of this comes from stereotypes. A lot of it comes from laws like Jim Crow. You have to remember that when people of African descent, Negroes, were slaves, they were denied an education. They were not allowed to read or write, and only a few managed to do so. Some of them from the help of people on the plantation that they were on. Some they learned how to do it on their own. But an educated slave was also a dead slave. See, we weren't supposed to know how to read and write. Because when you have education, you become dangerous, because then you start to really, really think. Not saying that uneducated people don't think, because they do, but when you have education, it kind of knocks you up that level a little higher. And I don't mean that to sound like a snob or anything. I'm just saying that more things are open to you, that you're learning more things. You're finding out about more things in life, you know, things that you're reading in books. And one thing that white America cannot stand, in my opinion, is an educated Negro. Look at Barack Obama. Highly intelligent, highly educated. And you had a lot of white people who didn't like that, who were jealous of that. An educated Negro is also someone that you had to fear, because now that they have education and they can read and they can write, they're better able to see what we're up to. You know, Jim Crow really went into effect around 1890. And they wanted to disenfranchise Black people from voting. Because around that time, after the Civil War, you know, Black people started to come into their own. They were learning how to read. They were getting off the plantation, the ones that were fortunate enough to do so. You had your Booker T. Washingtons, your W.E.B. Du Bois, your Madam C.J. Walkers, your Mary McLeod Bethunes, your Frederick Douglasses, and you had your Harriet Tubmans. You had all these people who were, you know, ex-slaves, or, you know, whose parents were born into slavery. And they were all becoming educated. And they were, you know, making sure, you know, that people of color were also educated, that they understood, you know, different laws and, you know, different things and how they can make money and how they can buy land. That's one reason why you have Black Wall Street. You had a lot of educated people who learned how to build up what they had, and they made it a success. So at the turn of the century, Democrats and Republicans, they were not the way they are now. Okay. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Democrats were actually the ones who formed the Klan. They were the ones who, you know, didn't really want us voting. I'm not going to say really what they didn't want us voting. So that's why Republicans are holding on to that whole thing about we're the party of Lincoln. We, you know, the Democrats, they're doing all this stuff to put you down. We're here to save you. No, well, that's another show, because you all haven't been the party of Lincoln for I don't know how long. But at the turn of the century, you had something called the Mississippi Plan. And in Mississippi, there was a governor by the name of James Vardaman. And he was holding no bones about how he felt about Black folks. He said, and I quote, "There is no use to equivocate or lie about the matter. Mississippi's Constitutional Convention of 1890 was held for no other person than to eliminate the niggers from politics." That was the Mississippi Plan. Eliminate the niggers from politics. And after 1890, and especially by 1903, the Mississippi Plan had spread throughout the South. It was to keep Black people from voting. And now what happened more than a century later? You had the Supreme Court who last week upheld the voting restrictions that Arizona put in place in 2013 by a vote of 6-3. They struck down major components of the 1965 Voter Registration Act. Why? Some people say, oh, well, it's not needed anymore. Really? Let me tell you what else they did with Jim Crow. Okay, now some people may know what a poll tax is. Some people may not know what a poll tax is, but basically to prevent African Americans from voting, they had poll taxes where you would have to pay either $1 or $2 in order to vote. Now, in today's money, that's either can be anywhere from $30 to $60. But they instituted these poll taxes. And if you were a white person, middle class, upper middle class, $1 was nothing. $2 was nothing. But if you were Black in the South, more than likely, you were still working on someone else's land. Even though they weren't plantations, they may as well have been plantations. You were still working on someone else's land. And they were paying you. Usually they were cheating you, but they were paying you. You were not making that much. So to have to spend $1, a whole dollar, in order to register to vote, that was a lot of money. But this is what happened. We had a lot of white poor people who were also not able to afford that $1 or $2. So what they did was they had grandfather clauses where they said, well, if your grandfather was able to pay the poll taxes, you don't have to. And for some of those white people, their grandfathers were allowed to pay the poll taxes. Or if another person can pay that poll tax for you, even better. And you had white people who had money who would pay poll taxes for the white people. Then you had literacy tests. So again, we're talking about the South. We're talking now, again, Jim Crow. It's been around, the term been around since 1828. But when it started to seep into the laws, it was, like I said, around the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. And again, we're talking about the South. And you still had a lot of Negroes that didn't know how to read. Or if they did, it was just basic, just enough to get by. So what Mississippi did was White folks had to take the literacy test too. The county clerk would have part of the Constitution. And he would say, or she, mostly it was usually a he, read this. Usually they would give the white person something easy to read. You know, maybe a sentence or two. Okay, you pass. Then they would give the Negro something dense to read. A lot of words, a lot of, you know, wherefores and all that, what have you. They didn't pass. Well, can't pass literacy test. How do you expect to vote? See ya. And that's what they did to Fannie Lou Hamer back in 1963. They gave her something extremely difficult to read and she couldn't read it. 42 years old, and she couldn't read it. But I'm not mad at her. I mean, it was the times that she was living in. But you know what she said? She told that county clerk, I'm going to come back every 30 days until I pass. And she did. And she did. You know, let's talk about the jelly beans in the jar. You want to vote? Mr. Negro, count the jelly beans in the jar. How many jelly beans are in this jar? Yep, sorry, got it wrong. Can't vote. Bye. They had whites only primaries. Again, we're talking about the Southern Democrats, okay? And again, we're talking about around the turn of the century, whites only primaries. Where only white people were running, only white people were allowed to vote. That's what they did. You go back, and again, let me share this with you again. Another way that people were prevented from voting was by intimidation. And that's where the Klan comes in. You had white mobs who would intimidate Black people to keep them from voting. I mean, you had just white people who were just, I don't want you voting. They would burn crosses. They would beat you. They would lynch you. They would rape your mothers, daughters, and grandmothers. All so you would not be able to vote. Now let's talk about intimidation. Let's talk about intimidating someone so they don't vote. Let's fast forward to the 21st century, 2021, Jim Crow 2.0. And the Republican Party, who is now flipped with the Democratic Party, they're now the ones who do not want us to vote. Still white folks. And they want to send poll watchers to the polls. They want to make sure that no one's cheating, or the person who is supposed to vote is actually the person who is supposed to vote. I mean, you know, here in California, yes, California is supposed to be a liberal state, but California is a racist state, you know, still, you know, you had people who would go to the polls last November with assault rifles in certain areas. Why are you going to show up to a polling place with an assault rifle? Because it was intimidation. But luckily, people were not intimidated. And that's what you're having. You're having people show up now to try to intimidate you. You know, telling you that you can't bring someone food and water if they're in line. So if my mother, my grandmother, whoever, you know, whomever was in line, and they wanted a bottle of water, I'm going to get arrested because I'm giving someone a bottle of water. And Republicans, they don't see anything wrong with that. And somehow, the stereotypes of Negroes and voting the term voter fraud came up. They're cheating if they vote. Black people are committing fraud when they vote. About 2 weeks ago, I told you about a man by the name of July Perry, Julius July Perry, who lived in Georgia. He had land and well respected in the community. And due to unfortunate circumstances, he was beaten and killed by the sheriff. Well, it just so happens that July Perry, weeks before in Georgia, he managed to vote. Now, he had been intimidated, but he said, I'm not going to let anybody intimidate me. And he went to vote. And he voted successfully. Now, it could be another one of the reasons why they targeted him. And went to his house, took him back to the jail, beat the crap out of him, shot him five times, broke his ribs, broke his legs. And killed him. Does this happen to white people? Does this happen to white people? Do white people go through the shit that we go through? And yes, I'm saying, do white people go through the shit that we go through? You can be poor. You can be an uneducated white person, but you do not go through the shit that we go through. And I'm talking about even the crap that, you know, rich Black folks go through because we're Black. And you know I'm right. White people do not deal with the crap that Black people go through. And with the exception of Native Americans, I don't think any other race does. Yes, there's Asian hate. Yes, there's hate against Latinos, and I know I'm probably going to get slammed for this, but what Black people go through, we go through hell. So when I hear, racism, there's no racism. We had a Black president. Look at what he went through and what he's still going through as a former president. Why are we even talking about Jim Crow? Why are we even talking about it? Why do we have someone like July Perry who had to lose his life? White people do not go through the same shit we go through. You know it, I know it, they know it. Now, I spoke about the Democrats. Now they were the Klan. Republicans were, I'm not going to say they were on our side, but as I said, Abraham Lincoln was Republican. He freed the slaves. A lot of the racist stuff that came out of the South, the Mississippi Plan, that was Democrats. But somewhere along the way, the script kind of flipped, and you had Southern Republicans who started their Southern strategy around the mid 1950s, but really started get going when Richard Nixon was running for president. And remember, Black folks still couldn't vote. But the Southern strategy was like the Mississippi Plan. Keep the niggas from voting. Let me get that saying one more time. I want to make sure that I have it. When he said Mississippi governor in 1903. I'm going to say it again. There is no use to equivocate or lie about the matter. Mississippi's Constitutional Convention of 1890 was held for no other purpose than to eliminate the niggers from politics. So the Republicans, when they started their Southern strategy, they were using the Mississippi Plan. Because around that time, around the beginning of the 1960s, civil rights movement was really, getting strong, and there were protests. You had your sit-ins at Woolworth. People were marching. You had your John Lewis's, Martin Luther King. Malcolm X was coming up into prominence, and you had Southern whites, Republicans, who did not want Black people to vote. So their Southern strategy was like the Mississippi Plan. Whatever we can do to keep Black people from voting. Hence, one reason why Fannie Lou Hamer had to go to that literacy test. These literacy tests and poll taxes, they've been around for so long. And here we are again in 2021. And they're still trying to keep us from voting. Instead of having a drop box here, let's make it 20 miles away from this neighborhood. Or we'll only have one or maybe two. So if you want to drop off your ballot, you got to seriously drive just to get you a drop box. Let's not have voting on Sunday. Or if you do vote on Sunday, you can't start voting until after 1 p.m. purposely, because they know that churches, especially in the South, for Souls to the Polls, that they get everybody on a bus after church and they go to the polls. And usually they're voting earlier. Let's not make voting go until 9 p.m. in some of these areas. Let's make the cutoff 7 or maybe 6. So people who have to work can't vote. Now, supposedly, if you want to vote, your employer is supposed to allow you time to go and vote. They cannot keep you from voting. But why are you making these laws? Why did the Supreme Court strike down significant, important parts of the 1965 law? Why did they do that? They did that in 2013. Why are white people, I'm gonna say mainly conservatives, so afraid of the Black vote? And you've been afraid of the Black vote for more than a century. You were afraid of the Black vote when you instituted the Mississippi Plan. Why do you not want Black people to vote? I'm not talking about Asians. I'm not talking about Latinos. I'm talking about Black people. Why do you not want us to vote? And on that note, I'm going to open it up. I see Miss Shy Lady has joined us.
Hey. Sorry for being late. That is a good question. Why us? Why do they not want us to vote? And I think the reason, in my opinion, is as a whole, as a race, we went through so much in the past to have that right. So I think that as far as ethnic groups, we come out in big numbers, particularly when it's a candidate running that we feel will benefit our community. We will go all out and support that candidate. And so I think that is one of the reasons why they don't want us to vote, because our people went through so much just for us to have that right. I don't think any other ethnic group went through what we went through because they weren't prevented from voting. So a lot of us, including myself, feel it is our duty to, and I know as well as you, feel it is our duty to vote. It's our duty because our ancestors and the people that came before us sacrificed their lives for our right to vote. And I hope that even with these younger people, these millennials, maybe they're kind of removed from the civil rights era when we grew up. A lot of the stuff we're going on in the 60s, you know, we were born in the 60s.
Right.
And so our parents emphasized the right to vote because we saw it. We saw the demonstrations. We saw that on TV. So these new people, these millennials, I don't know if they understand the importance of the right for us to vote, but somehow they need to, that needs to continue, that emphasis, that rhetoric. We need to continue to say it, to shout it out loud. Go vote. You must vote. Too much was laid on the line. Too many people sacrificed their lives and actually lost their lives for us to vote. And it can't be stressed enough. And so I think that with us as a unit, as a pack, we can make profound impact on candidates. And that's why they don't want us to vote, because we may be smaller in numbers, but we are strong when we come together.
We are.
We're very strong.
We are.
So
Oh, I lost her. She dropped off here. Okay, so what Charlene said, she made, really good points. We are strong when we, vote as a group. So my question is, why don't you get your people, out and encourage them to vote? Why do you have to cheat in order to win an election? I mean, Republicans don't want to get rid of the Electoral College. Lindsey Graham said, you get rid of the Electoral College, Republicans will never win another election. Because if you go by the popular vote, Republicans have not won a popular vote in like 9 election cycles. They haven't won. Democrats have always won the popular vote. Probably, going back, as far as Jimmy Carter. It just doesn't make sense to me. Then you put all this time and energy and tax dollars, my tax dollars, into these laws that are trying to prevent people who look like me to vote. It just doesn't make sense. Racism in this country is alive and kicking. Jim Crow is alive and kicking. Jim Crow is not dead. He is still here. But I can tell you one thing. All these laws that have been instituted, in the last 4 months, I personally think they're going to backfire. And I think they're going to backfire in a big way. Because like Shy Lady just said, we get together, we are going to vote. And come November of 22 and November of 24, because of what you've done, we're going to stand in those lines. And you're going to have people holding each other up if they get tired. You need a shoulder to lean on? Lean on me. I'll get you to the door. I'll help you through the door. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. America is made up of so many different people. Skin colors are different. Our cultures are different. You can have 5 people from different ethnic backgrounds sit down to eat dinner at 6 p.m. And all the food on the dinner tables, everyone's going to have something different to eat. We are different. But we all have to live in this country together. This is not a white European only country. It never was. It never began as a white European country. You had Native Americans who were already here. You had the Aztecs and you had the Mayans who were already here. Here comes Christopher Columbus. He discovered America. No, he didn't. So while you have people in this country who are trying desperately to keep other factions of American history out of the classrooms, down the street, you have a cop with has their knee on somebody's neck. Or you have someone like Tucker Carlson, who the other day said that he thinks that every classroom should have cameras. You know, every classroom should have cameras to make sure that teachers are not teaching critical race theory. This is once again one of Tucker Carlson's stupid, ignorant, racist, dumb ass comments. But you have people who support him going, yeah. I see shy ladies back, and I wanted to say to you when you were talking is, as we were talking yesterday, I still truly believe that with these voter laws and the way they are happening so fast in this country, that Black people, what they need to do, and even to let people in Congress show and let people in Congress know, like the Joe Manchins and the Kristen Sinemas, as well as the Republicans. You want to, be dumb and stupid, and you want to treat us like this? I still say have a Black economic boycott to shut everything down. I truly believe that. And whenever they start, acting crazy and stupid and ignorant and want to come up with something else dumb, we shut it down again. Because it has already been proven through this pandemic, the amount of money that has been lost, except for maybe Amazon. But the only place you shop is a Black-owned business, and make sure that is a Black-owned business. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous that this is 2021 and we're still talking about race and Jim Crow and whites only, and you can do this, and you still have places in America where people want it to be a white only town. You have places in America that literally up until probably around 2009 were still sundown towns. It's crazy. It makes no sense. Blue lives matter, like Monica was saying yesterday. Blue lives matter, but yet these same people who care about the American flag and Blue Lives Matter are going, to the Capitol beating up other police officers with the American flag.
Hypocrisy. When the former person who left office, it's like I've never seen so much divisiveness in the highest office ever. Now there were racist presidents, and but this the one that left, the divisiveness in the country was ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's downright ridiculous, and I don't see how people could hold this person in such high esteem when even white people I've read were divided in their own families because some supported him and some didn't. And anybody who caused this kind of disruption could not be a good president, could not be good for all people. And like I said, there's been people in the past. Exactly. There's been plenty of, awful people in the president's office before, but even the things that he said, like the whole thing about the women's, grabbing by the pussy, whatever. What some presidents may have even thought those thoughts, but who actually says that in a public setting? Who actually says that? That's just ridiculous.
But you
And
know
it's like,
what? If Hillary Clinton had said grab him by the dick, they would have been all over her.
yeah.
Seriously.
That alone to me says you have no morals, no values, and you don't have the characteristics to represent the highest office in the nation. You don't have it. But
not just
how
in,
he got
in America,
but anywhere. It's like this is what you all picked to represent this country. This is what you picked. Wow, they should be embarrassed.
Well, I mean, America, in my opinion, is already a laughing stock. And even though, Joe Biden is trying his best to say America's back, but like people are saying, but for how long? We, the fact that, with the former guy, I never considered him the P word. I refuse to say that. I just saw him as somebody who was occupying the White House, whatever. Someplace that he, by the way, said was a dump, but he didn't want to leave, but I saw him as the war between the states, where you had families who fought for the Confederacy, or you had family members who fought for the Union, and it tore families apart then. Either they were for slavery, they were against it, whatever. And that's what the former guy did. He divided families. I mean, I know people in families who literally stopped talking to each other because one person voted for him, or a couple of people voted for him, and the other ones didn't. I mean, I had somebody tell me that they're happy that COVID came, because that meant they didn't have to, come up with an excuse, for going to Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas. Because every time they got together, they would literally sometimes have knockdown, drag out fights over this person. That's ridiculous. 2021, it was like you breathe that sigh of relief. Okay, we're going to start off 2021. We actually have someone who is an adult in charge, who knows what they're doing. This is going to be a great year. And 6 days into the year, you have an insurrection, a violent insurrection, to stop democracy in this country from happening. And it has just continued and continued and continued. And here we are, July 7th of 2021. And people in this country are worried about democracy. But yet we can go over to other countries and preach to them about how you shouldn't treat your citizens like this, or how you shouldn't treat, come on. Let's deal with the problems here in this country first. But for Black folks, I'm telling you, I still say, shut it down. We just stop spending money. And it will be felt. It will be felt. So places like AT&T and Walmart, who want to support these ridiculous people in Congress who support these voter suppression laws, stop shopping there. Buy your toothpaste someplace else. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I don't know. I think the former telecommunications company that I worked at, had elements of Jim Crow. Black people can do this, but you can't do that. We'll let you go only so high, but then, nope, can't go any higher. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that this year is very important. And a lot of things have to change. We need to reach our younger people to let them know that people before you went through complete and total, utter shit. So you can have what you have. And honestly, for Black folks, we don't have much. We really don't. You know, you may have $1 million because, you know, you're this basketball star or this, you know, football star, or, you know, you're Oprah or whoever. But when you look at it, Black folks, we don't have much. You know, throwing us a bone with Juneteenth, that's not helping us, that's helping white folks. So you throw us a bone with Juneteenth and we're supposed to be happy, so, you know, shut up about critical race theory. Shut up about everything else. See what we did for you. We're the white savior coming in. Mm-mm. 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 And if we don't take care of this Jim Crow 2.0 crap now, if we don't take care of this voter suppression and get these law enforcement laws passed, this George Floyd Act, if we don't get this stuff taken care of now and literally force them to do it, we're going to have Jim Crow 3.0 and 4.0. And depending on who is in Congress and who is in the White House, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to put us back on somebody's plantation. If the former guy had managed to stay in for another 4 years and then had his way like Putin and been in for another 12, 20 years, whatever, we would be back on the plantation and the Central Park 5 would be executed. I guarantee. They'll start coming around treating us like the Japanese in World War II, taking our property and everything. These are dangerous times. These are dangerous times. I mean, democracy was never 100% for us anyway, but now, when you have the opportunity to vote, you vote. And like I said, you take care of those down ballots. You vote. Understand what is going on. Be aware. Because if they had their choice, they would erase us. I said it before. They will erase us. And the only person who can erase me and take me away from here is the man upstairs. When he says it's time for me to go, then I will go. So, Shy Lady, once again, I'm going to give you the last word.
I say we continue to have discussions. We continue, amongst family members, if we're on social media with family members, we need to spread the word. a lot of times, we get caught up in Instagram and all these other social media things, but posting pictures and stuff, but we really need to be concerned about, like you say, what's going on with us politically, because the wrong person in office can make a whole lot of people's lives very uncomfortable. So we definitely need to stay on what's going on in this country, not just what the latest rapper is doing or the latest, Instagram person and influencer. We need to really find out what's going on in our local political offices. So we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate our family members, friends, and loved ones, because we are probably in for a battle the next election. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, you are correct. And I am going to say one thing. Hopefully I can get you and Monica tomorrow, because she actually gave me a good topic for a show. And we were actually laughing about it when we were talking about it on the phone. But it is important. And the title would be, Can We Not Just? And, can we not just, be stupid? Can we not just, just talking about just about anything? Can we not just? And again, I think that, can we not just make the decision not to vote? That, I mean, that lead in, can we not just, can just go so far. But Shy Lady, what you just said, we do need to continue to talk to people. And, even if it means when we're at church, we get up, we, ask pastor or reverend, bishop, whomever, if we can say a few words, and if we have to get up, and talk, whatever, that's what we have to do. But we need to fight back. So I'm gonna do anything and everything that I can, because we don't need another Greg Abbott. We don't need an Allen West. I don't know what's going on in Texas there. I'm kind of hoping in Texas that Beto O'Rourke decides to make a run for governor. I mean, he only lost by less than 3 percentage points for Senate. So I don't know. Hopefully. But we need to get the Abbotts and DeSantis and all these other crazy governors out of office. Just so much work needs to be done. And Shy Lady, I said I was giving you the last word, and I took the last word, so sorry.
No problem.
All right.
It's your show.
Well, but I try to spread it around, even to my silent friend, which I know she's over there smiling and laughing, but that's cool. But anyway, again, thank you for coming. I'm Solid Blue Sister, Speak Your Truth, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.